could go back and play for the first. Oh, I got one. The Ghost of Tsushima. And it's like I've been so immersed in like learning about that game and where I went into it not really knowing anything at all and
Right.
being blown away by the presentation and the story. It's like something you love so much, but you know it, so you're a little jaded to it. And I would
Got
just
it.
love to like remove that jaded feeling a little bit with that game and be like I'm playing it for the first time again. Hello and welcome to level 132 of the Thoughts and Players podcast, the gaming podcast of bold takes and no strings attached. I am Jeremy, here with my compadre, David.
What up?
How's your evening going today?
It is doing great. My partner has some friends over playing euchre, and it's like the first time we really had people who don't come over here often since she like helped zazz up the place.
Yeah.
So it's pretty exciting to have new people to show what we've put together, you know?
Yeah. So you've got a euchre thing going on right now. Is that
Yeah,
what you're saying?
I got a record player for Christmas 2 years ago from my mom,
Yeah.
and we put it in the living room so I can feel the music playing.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, and they're in the dining room. They got some salad and pizzas and
Oh, some salad and some za.
yeah.
What do you got on the vinyl? What you got going on the vinyl? Do you know?
Honestly, it's probably the Wicked soundtrack.
Okay.
She's obsessed with that. I can only be a nerd, an OST. I can't remember the actual name of it. Soundtrack? That's the word.
Yeah.
She loves that soundtrack.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's
really popular
for me.
Really popular musical and
very.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think I'm trying to think of because I also got, or I think around 2 years ago as well, I got a vinyl player. And I think the last vinyl that we played and that is on there, my partner bought me the official soundtrack OST to Ghost of Tsushima. So I think that's what's on there.
That's awesome.
But prior to that, it was probably, I don't know. It was probably some not well-known artists. I listen to a lot of popular artists, but also don't listen to a lot of popular artists. So,
Right.
Cool. That's nice.
How's your day been?
It's all right. It's been all right. You know what I'm saying? My front step collapsed. My front concrete step collapsed. So I had to get a replacement. So I gotta do that. I got a sledgehammer, so that's cool. I'm gonna be able to kind of bust it up, and then I gotta replace it, and it's gonna be a pain. It's like you get a new step. You're like, okay, this is reasonable thing to get, and you look it up, and it's like it's 170 pounds. This step.
Like, do you need a single or a double?
Single.
Single? They're like they're $50 at like Home Depot.
Yeah, I grabbed one of those.
Yeah, I actually had to replace mine.
Yeah.
This past summer.
Okay.
It was fun banging it with a sledgehammer. There's metal in there. Be careful.
I won't. Be careful. We'll just see what happens. Ladies and gentlemen, chickens, ducks, and hens, we welcome you into this level of the pod. Level 132. We got some good topics on the dock. We're going to talk about some things, those things being games. So I guess let's just hop right into it with our first segment that we always have, where we talk about the games that we are playing. So, who wants to go first here on the games that we're playing?
I'll go first.
Okay.
Playing the usual 2.
Okay.
I am stuck on Rivals. I am still Diamond 2.
Yeah.
So it looks like that's my plateau area. I did play a few games of Kingdoms of Annihilation.
Okay.
Yes, so that was fun.
How are you feeling that? That was fun?
It's all right. I got to look at the settings, I don't know, or look at the map. I'll pick like a random map and, 2 random teams and just go at it. But it seems the maps I've been picking are like really small because like the matches are like 20 minutes. I'm like, dude,
yeah,
I want like an hour-long match. We get some like actual armies going, but no, we just spawn right next to each other.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been fun. It's exactly what I remember. I'm glad I have it again.
Yeah. It isn't always nice to jump back into an RTS from the 90s or 2000s and say I'm going to play this and feel like what it's like, and oh, yeah, I'm going to build my army and do different things like that. I still feel like that was the height of that genre. I mean, I'm happy that it's making a little bit of a comeback recently, but I still think that's the height of what that genre is that time era,
Oh, well, I'm glad I'm stuck in it then, because I
Yeah.
haven't really played another one since.
Yeah.
But that's what I've been playing.
Okay, so Marvel Rivals and Annihilation. That's what you've been playing.
Yeah. Well, I guess
Okay.
a very little bit of finals.
Okay. Interesting. So you got 3 games on the docket there. One of them a little bit of a
Yeah.
wild card. So
Exactly.
I guess it's going to be a little bit of a journey for both of us because I have been playing some games. So let's see. I talked about, I think, last level that I wrapped up Fable 3. That I started. I think I mentioned that I started playing Sniper Elite Resistance. Still playing through that. I haven't picked it up for a minute, but still playing through it. It's god awful,
Okay.
but I gotta make my way through it. And then let's see here. I wrapped up a playthrough of Dynasty Warriors 8 Empires.
Nice.
So that was cool because I guess maybe I had played or beat that mode on a PlayStation or something. I got like all the achievements for beating the regular mode, but there's other scenarios that you can play and unlock. So I might have just beat a different scenario, and then the scenario I just played was a new one that I beat. So
possibly
there's replayability there. I don't know how much I'm going to be replaying that because of the 2 newer games that I've jumped into. So I also think that I might have mentioned on the last one that I might have played a little bit of Armored Core Fires of Rubicon. I can't remember if I mentioned that or not, but I jumped into that for a little bit and then jumped out because I don't have the patience for that game. So I gotta figure that out. But the other game that I've jumped back into that got around Christmas gift that I got around the same time I jumped into, played a little, was like, I'm not sure of this, went back into it, and now I am knee deep into it, is Rise of Ronin. I have pivoted. I think I've probably put close to 12 or 13 hours in the Rise of Ronin so far. I am like going through and like 100%ing all the regions for something I would never do. I'm just really into that game. The game isn't great, right? But the game does it ticks the boxes for what I need right now. It has a Souls-like-ish type of combat system. I would say it's probably comparable to something like Neo or something like that.
Okay.
The story is somewhat interesting, right? And I guess I just kind of love running around feudal Japan. That may just be what it boils down to. But that's been great. So I've been playing that. And another game that I have not played a little bit of, is Avowed. I've finally been able to jump into that.
Nice.
So I'm hoping by the time, level 133 rolls around, I'll have a more comprehensive take on that game. If you want to get my initial impressions of it, it's
really,
it's a mid game. It's not great. It's not bad. And I don't think for Xbox, by all accounts, Obsidian might be happy with that. Whatever. But for Xbox, I don't think this game. I don't think they can be happy with a mid game. That's not what really Avowed was kind of set up to be, at least at first. A lot of the advertising tamped down for it, and so it may have been. Eventually, they may have realized, oh, this is a mid game, but that's not what it was set up for at first. This was supposed to be Obsidian's foray into fantasy, RPG-ish. And I think before when I've talked about this game, I'm like, this may be, Skyrim 5.5. And I didn't mean that from
I remember.
I didn't mean that in like regards to like strictly like size and scope, but I meant that in regards to like how the game makes you feel.
Right, exactly.
The bigness, the impact, and this does not have it at all. And so I want to play more of it. I'm not completely turned off of it yet. I want to play more of it. I will say so far from what I've experienced, this is some of the weakest writing I've seen from Obsidian. And again, I most recently played Outer Worlds, And I came to Outer Worlds from Starfield. And I'm like, Outer Worlds writing is way better than Starfield's. This is the sliding scale of mediocrity that happens.
That's yeah.
Right? Because I go from Starfield to Outer Worlds, and I'm like, man, this Outer Worlds writing kills Starfield. And it's like, this is the same team that wrote Avowed. In essence, in theory, I guess. Like, I don't know. But yeah, I gotta play more of it. But that is what I have been playing. Yeah.
Well, before we head into the segments, did you see apparently Fable is being delayed till 26 now?
I did see that. And you know what?
Okay.
This was, you know what? You bring that up. I have a different topic for this episode, but I'll use it as a topic for next episode. It kind of
Okay.
springboards or leapfrogs off of that. But I did see that delayed till 2026.
Yeah, good. I remember you
Why
that being one of the games that
Yeah.
we talked about on a
and
previous
being
level.
excited for this year?
Yep.
Why would you announce this game in 2020? Does not make a lot of sense. You got to stop doing that, game devs. You got to stop doing that.
Right.
Don't
when,
announce
when did they show or announce
This game,
Elder Scrolls 6?
It was well, Fable was announced in 2020.
Right.
Just don't do that. Don't you know, if a game's just like, if it just got greenlit, don't
Give it a year or two. Like,
just give it more progress. When you think the game is like 18 months out, then announce it. That's pretty easy.
yeah.
There's a role, there's a job of people that are called project managers and product managers. And their job is to forecast and project when a project will be done. Now, of course, some things may be unforeseen and you can't anticipate that, but mostly you can be able to anticipate some things. And I feel like that you should be able to anticipate at some point whether a game is 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, possibly 6 or 7 years out. And say, you know
Right.
what? We're not going to announce this game in 2020 when we know there's a possibility that some things can happen and it gets delayed till even like 2025. I mean, you know why? But yeah, that's a topic for another time.
Okay.
But yes, to answer your question, I did see that.
Okay.
All right, so moving out of the games that we've been playing, let's move into those topics. I can go first with mine if we want.
Sure.
Can I knock it
Yeah.
out? So this is based off of some other news. I feel like we've been saying for a while that, hey, gaming is on fire. Gaming is on fire. This is unsustainable, and it is 100%. It was announced that Warner Brothers announced that it was closing 3 of its studios. One of its studios being Monolith. If that sounds familiar, Monolith did the Fear games, but probably most notable in fame, Monolith did the Lord of the Rings Shadow games. So Shadow of Mordor, Shadow of
Okay.
Both of those games utilized a combat style similar to like the Arkham series by Rocksteady, the old ones. And so it was really engaging. It was really interesting type of game. And one of the great things about that game was the Nemesis system. And that was the idea that you have these NPCs in the world that you could fight. These orcs, they could be well-known kind of chieftain orcs, or let's say like you're fighting, you know, the computer cheats and you get killed by some just regular orc. That orc can get promoted and then becomes like a captain or a lieutenant or whatever. And a whole nemesis or story, like nemesis story, builds off of your interactions with these characters. And it was really cool because they would remember previous fights, right? They would
That is
call
cool.
you different things. They would try to hunt you and track you down. Sometimes they had this thing called blood siblings. So where if you killed one orc, the blood sibling of the orc the other one would find you and track you down for revenge. There's really interesting novel ways of making the world feel like it reacts to you and that it engages with you, right? Something that maybe Avowed could have learned. So one of the things that came up with in this article too that I'm reading from, I believe it was, let's see, TechSpot, was that Warner Brothers in 2016, Warner Brothers along with Monolith actually patented the Nemesis system. I think to protect it, they thought this is a really good, interesting IP system of gaming that's cool. And now that system is probably going to die unless they decide to sell it or license it or something like that. So it made me think about game systems, really cool game systems or game feature ideas that we wish would have been used or maybe were used, and we're happy to kind of see it proliferate and expand. And so, I mean, I can offer one first.
Sure.
I kind of attribute it to Two Worlds, and you kind of mentioned, well, in Ocarina of Time, there's the Epona or Epona song. Forgot exactly how it's pronounced, but it allows you to tame Epona the horse, and then eventually you can use it to call the horse when you need it. And Two Worlds didn't have anything that magical or majestic. It was just a matter of you have a horse and you can call it. You can whistle for it, and your horse will come. I've seen that feature happen more and more in fantasy RPGs as well as regular RPGs. I mentioned that I'm playing Rise of Ronin. Rise of Ronin also
Mm-hmm.
allows you to call your horse. Ghost of Tsushima, they allowed you to call your horse. There's been other games that have allowed you to call your horse. And those two games that I mentioned, those aren't fantasy RPGs. Those are just action history based RPGs, and you're kind of allowed to do the same thing.
Right.
So I think it's really cool that you don't have to hunt for your horse at a predetermined location on the map.
Yeah.
You can just kind of call it to you, you know. I think for another example of that is kind of like, you know, like the Grand Theft Auto, like certain like open world games where you have a certain car and you can now usually use a phone to call and get your car delivered or something like that. It's the
Right.
same thing, right? Like you have these modes of transportation and other things that you get attached to, and being able to access them without having to hunt them down, I think is really beneficial to the experience. So,
I agree.
yeah, that's something else. Rise of Ronin also has another mechanic I think that may be somewhat inspired or borrowed from Two Worlds that I can touch on a little later. But that was my first one.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Because you waste so much time sitting around looking, running around, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that adds up, because if it's only a couple minutes every time, and you play the game for, let's say, 200 hours, freaking 3 hours of it is looking for your horse.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, it's just not a fun experience.
Exactly.
Yeah.
One of mine would have to be a an avoid player list. Like Overwatch has one and Marvel Rivals has one.
Okay.
But I don't know how many you can do in Marvel Rivals, but in Overwatch 2 it was just 3. And like in the finals, I can't do that. Apex Legends, I can't do that. Now, I don't play every single game ever created, so I don't know if other games have it. But I feel like it's a very great feature to have in your games on these like online games.
Yeah.
Like I get, there's a couple 100,000 people playing the bigger games at times, and you might never even have to worry about it. But on the games where there's only maybe 100,000 or less, and that's only around like the world, so you're getting stuck playing with the same 10,000 people on your server, you're eventually
Right.
going to keep running into the same people.
Right. Especially if it does something where it's like a region lock type of thing, like you're only connecting with players in your region.
And yeah, that too. So, you get the same person on your team 3 times in a row, and they're just, trying to D-rank, and they're just throwing the games and stuff. It's annoying.
Yeah.
So that's one I would like to see on more stuff.
Yeah, that is an interesting like feature to have on a game that can be helpful. Like just avoiding like, hey, this person is a problem. Hey, this person like is weird. They have some kind of beef because I sniped them in a session once and they were having a bad day and now they just want to being able to avoid them just from the onset, just de-escalate it completely. That's a
Exactly.
great feature. Yeah. My next one is actually gonna be one I had just thought of, but piggybacking off of the horse one, it's another horse one. So, but I'm not sure if it's really. I talked about maybe that it's inspired somewhat by Two Worlds. It may be more inspired again by those other open world games, something like a Grand Theft Auto or a clone of that, right? So in Rise of Ronin, depending on where you're trying to go, you can actually auto set course for your horse to ride there. I remember being able to do this in the Mafia remake. Yeah, where you can set ride here and your horse will just ride on the roads automatically to the destination. You don't have to control it. which
Wow.
is a cool way to like, look at the world if you want to, or hey, I want to go pop some popcorn or whatever you do. I mean, you shouldn't eat popcorn while you're playing a game. That's kind of gross to have on your controller. But whatever you want to do, right? You want to go get some, you want to go get some, some Gatorade or some, I don't know, whatever you do, some whatever. Like
Right.
it's a mechanic to do that. It kind of takes a little bit of the pressure off, right? It allows a little bit more accessibility to the game without compromising the actual experience you can have with the game, because you can also choose to not do that. So that's another really cool thing. I think Two Worlds had a mechanic where you could auto set the speed of your horse. So you wouldn't have to worry about, oh, this is too fast, too slow. You could auto set the speed for where you're going and just worry about maneuvering and not worry about having to push forward to make your horse go, right? So those types of things, again, it's little bits like that kind of help the experience, where it's like, oh, okay, I don't have to be. It's weird to say, like, why would you play a video game if you don't want to always be engaged? But you may not always want to be engaged with certain aspects of a game. And so having ways, being a developer, being honest and being like, people aren't going to want to freaking have to steer this horse all the damn time. Every like it's kind of like, okay, you respect you understand that, just make this freaking horse. We already know why we're here. Make this horse go where it needs to go.
Right.
And let's get on with it. That's another thing that I think should happen more. Open world games for sure, like cars. You can automate the car to go to its destination if you want. And again, if you want someone to be more passive and actually take in the world, put a lot of time and money and energy into your world design. And that allows people to experience and look at more of it, because they're not so laser focused in on making sure they don't run into a bush or a ditch or whatever the heck else is in front of them.
Yeah, that's great points.
Yeah.
Mine is, it is in some games, but I disagree how it's done.
Okay.
So like there's games, live service games, and they're on multiple consoles, stuff like that. So there's just like cross progression or whatever, like you can connect your accounts on multiple devices.
Mm-hmm.
But when you've played on both of them, it usually takes over the one that you've played the most is the one that takes over everything.
Mm-hmm.
So like if I had 20 skins on this one and 30 skins on this one, but they're completely different, I only have the 30 skins now.
Oh yeah.
And I think it should go through like a checklist of some sort when you connect them, and it just kind of adds it to that account, so you don't lose all this progress just because you're trying to make it simpler for you.
Right.
Or like, say I had a PlayStation 5 and it busted and I got a nice deal on an Xbox, Series X or whatever, and I just want to play my game and I transfer my stuff. Obviously, it's going to be a lot easier because you don't have an Xbox account, but if I did, I'm going to have to lose it because my PlayStation is the one that I played on more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. That's for sure what happens. And like the bigger one eats the other one, essentially, when they do integration like that.
Yeah.
Which is a little bit defeating of the purpose of that to some extent. I mean, the overall purpose, like you said, is to like get things aligned, make sure that everything's like centered, but it would be nice to kind of be able to retain everything you've got from that experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's another one that for sure need to work on. I'm trying to think if that happened it might have happened when I synced my Warframe accounts, because I had a Warframe account on PlayStation, Xbox, and PC, and they were like, "Hey, loser, pick one," and that's going to be the one that it is. And I don't know if I remember them all linking up like that, and that's something that I had to think about, because like my PC account was older, but I played more on my Xbox and I had more skins on my Xbox. And so I'm wondering if it was like, okay, PC is the main one that you want. We're going to wipe out all your Xbox stuff. And it's like, well, no, I want to keep all the skins and everything. Just make it all, just put them all in the one closet. You don't have to burn the other closet. Just put them all in the one,
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh man, that's frustrating. The last mechanic that I was thinking about that I'm kind of glad is proliferating is, and it's been around for a minute, but I'm just glad to see it happening more, is the utilization of loadouts in non-shooter games. So for instance, I think about Avowed, I think about a couple of other things as well. It allows you to have fantasy games. Typically in a fantasy game, you'll have I mean, nowadays they kind of have where you have a main hand weapon and an offhand weapon, right? And it's like you pick one weapon for this hand, one weapon for this hand, or you can pick like a different primary weapon you use. So a lot of times, like in Skyrim, it'd be okay, I have a sword and shield, but then I can also switch to my bow. And that essentially kind of works as two different loadouts, but it's not really distinctly stated as that. And I like that nowadays, like games are being able to actually incorporate the aspect or concept of loadouts to like fantasy RPGs and other ones where I already have a predetermined kit of what I want to use, and then I can switch to it anytime I want.
Right.
I don't have to remember to hot button this weapon to this key and hot or link it to like to this button or this, like it's all set up to where I can just switch from loadout to loadout to loadout. I know what my weapons are. I can always upgrade or change or do different things like that. And then I can keep going. Because if you think about it, right, it all makes sense. Whether you're someone that's fighting on the modern battlefield or you're some kind of dragon Nordic warrior, you have a loadout of weapons, and that loadout may change.
Yep.
Right? If I'm approaching a castle from a distance, I may want to have my loadout of archery or ranged stuff, right? And then when I get closer, I want to switch to my axe and my maybe it's a double-handed axe or whatever it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
I would like to see I'd like to see an increase in loadouts. Like, if I can, I mean, in some games, like it's a little unrealistic, I guess, but in like Skyrim, I can hold like 30 swords. Well, can I have a possibility of maybe potentially 3 to 4 loadouts that I can use instead of just 1 or 2? Because that basically kind of ties you into either a melee focused loadout or a range focused loadout, right?
Right.
And like with Avowed has your melee weapons, your range weapons, and also your magic, right? So it'd be cool to have, like, in Skyrim has that too. You think of like staffs and different things like that have elemental damage and things they do to them. Be nice to at least have 3 or 4 loadouts that can cover that variation. Maybe I want to be more of a regular melee. Maybe I want to be a little bit of a range, and then maybe I might want to do a little bit of like a battle mage type thing. Having an additional loadout or two will kind of help keep that stuff immediate and just more customizable.
Yeah.
And so I think that's another thing that I'm glad to see starting to impact other games outside of shooters, because shooters have had that for years. I mean, heck, I think Sniper Elite Resistance allows you to do 3 or 4 loadouts, and we're talking about Sniper Elite Resistance. So I feel like there's some opportunities there to keep doing that.
Yeah, I agree. I don't play many games like that,
Mm-hmm.
but the few that I have, I don't want to go in my menu and have to switch my main weapon and switch how my secondary, whatever, like whatever. That's just work I don't want to do. Like I'll do the work and I want to do the work if you give me some, hotkey, whatever setups,
Mm-hmm.
So like, oh, okay, these people are fire resistant, so let me bring up, my weaponry stage 3.
Yeah.
So that way it does ice damage or something because my main stuff is fire. So it's like it would make things a lot better.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just that type of thing is, like you said, it's that's more so just kind of dated design. It's a little bit dated. It's a little archaic. And so yeah, that's it's cool to see that kind of happening and changing too. Um yeah, but that's it for mechanics or features that I can think of.
Okay.
That's it for me.
That's it for me too. Okay,
All right.
so I guess that equals going on to the next one.
Yeah.
And the next one is mine. And that one is, if you could relive a game for the first time again, what game would that be?
Oh,
And I guess if it's a very, very hard choice, we can do 2.
I got to pick one
But,
game
like,
that I can relive playing again for the first time.
yeah.
Oh my god. Okay. Um Well, it's going to be hard. Can we do 2?
Sure.
Okay.
That makes it easier on me too.
Okay, cool. And I'm gonna acquiesce to you. Would you like to go first on this one?
Yeah, that's what I was
Okay.
literally about to say. That was what I was gonna bring up when you were done talking, but just so
Yeah.
happens it's the same idea. Yeah, so I'll say the second place first. And it's only second place because it's not as prevalent to me
Mhm.
as what the number one is gonna be. But it means just as much to me, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
And it's Last of Us.
That's a good
Like
one.
I never
That's a
put
great.
that much hours into a single player game like that besides one other game.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it even beat it or not. But yeah, just The Last of Us it was way too good. That story is so great. And
Yeah.
like I see that being more of a thing than like maybe zombies or whatever.
Mhm.
But just the way that they built the story of how the people react to each other,
Mhm.
it seems very real if the apocalypse happened like that.
Right.
So that's why I gotta go with that one.
That's a great one.
Thank you, thank you.
That is a great one. God, this is an impossible question. And the thing is that I knew this was your topic.
Hmm.
And now that I'm like critically thinking about all of it, I'm like, oh no, this is impossible. So I'm wondering if you have an assumption of what I might say. I will tell you.
Slightly.
I will tell you why one of those games is not Morrowind.
That
Okay.
I have no clue then.
The
Well,
reason
maybe, but that was
the
one of them.
reason why it's not Morrowind, and this is a credit, is that every time I start to play Morrowind, I feel like how I felt the first time I played it. So it's not a game where I have to think about if I could play it for the first time again. Because every time
Got
I
it.
play it, I
Because
feel
you
like I'm
just
playing.
kind of just relive it every time.
I just relive it every time.
That is honestly so cool.
Yeah. 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 God, man, if I'm thinking about a game that I wish I could go back and play for the first. Oh, I got one. I think it's another obvious one. The Ghost of Tsushima. That's one I
Ooh,
wish I could go back and play for the first time because I know
that is a
everything
good one.
about it, and it's like I've been so immersed in like learning about that game and all the different things like that. Like being able to go and play it again for the first time, where I went into it not really knowing anything at all, and
Right.
being blown away by the presentation and the story, and being connected to the protagonist and their story. It's yeah, have that feeling again. It's like something you love so much, but you know it, so you're a little jaded to it. That's what I'm kind
Hmm.
of thinking about. And I would
Got
just
it.
love to like remove that jaded feeling a little bit with that game and be like I'm playing it for the first time again. Um, so I would say Ghost of Tsushima is one for me, for sure.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
I still have not heard anything bad about that game.
I'm pretty sure it's got its
You know.
detractors. Yeah.
Um. Okay. So this game is the easy first one, only because if I didn't play this one, then there's a lot of stuff I would have missed. It kind of is what made the ball roll,
Mm.
and it's Resident Evil 2.
Yeah.
That's what got me hooked on those type of games. If I never
Yeah.
played this game, I might have never played The Last of Us,
Hmm.
you know, and I might not have played the other Resident Evils that came out. And I mean, I played this game quite a few times. The only other story one I put a lot of time into was I was mentioning it earlier was Resident Evil 4.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was such a good game, and
Hmm.
especially for its time, the graphics were decent, and I mean, it had a great story.
It's another great choice. It's another great choice. Again, I always talk about how like that first 10, 15 minutes of that game is like seared into my memory in regards to what it looks like, what's going on, how I felt playing it. Like it's all there. Yeah. God, okay, so we only got 2. So which one goes over Ghost of Tsushima for me?
Yeah,
a game I wish I could play again for the first time. I'm gonna say these games. I feel bad. Like these games may. We should maybe revisit this later on. These games may change. Okay, like these games may change because I'm pretty sure there's games that I'm forgetting that, man, I wish I could play for the first time again. God.
I mean, there'd be a whole list.
There'd be a whole list. Games that I wish I could play again for the first time. I think if I had to pick one again that I wish I could play for the first time, God, it would be. See, okay, here's another thing though too. My games may not be good games. This is something I had to preface this with too.
Oh, that's completely fine.
Yeah, like they may not be good games. So, I got it now. This is one I've talked about before too. I thought about all the different games I ran through my mind, the strategies. Mm-hmm. I thought about Command and Conquer. I'd love to play that again for first. I thought about what's his face? Other games I can't remember. But the one that I think about now that I wish I could go back and play for the first time is one I've mentioned before, and that is the game The Movies. That's the one I wish I could go back and play for the first time all over
again.
The idea of being able to hop in and run your own movie studio, and you hire the actors and you hire your writers and you build your sets and you have these goofy little sim like movies that happen and play, like that whole thing is such a cool idea that has not been done. There's a game that came out recently that's another movie making game, but it kind of plays like Game Dev Tycoon. I don't think there will ever be another game that is like The Movies. And so being able to go back and play that game for the first time again, I remember when I first played that game, I was utterly blown away. And I am always sometimes blown away if I have the chance. I haven't had the chance to play it again in years. So, but being able to relive that would be great, because that for sure is a game that left its mark on me in regards to kind of like that simulation strategy game thing getting into. That was kind of the first one of those I ever played. I wish I could play that again for the first time. That was such a great, cool experience.
I think that's a good choice.
There's a few. I mean, to its credit, we know Peter Molyneux not great, but to his credit and to Lionhead Studios' credit, there's 3 games they've made that are in my possible list. With that, with The Movies, with Black and White 2, and with Fable. Those are all 3 games that are like have a very soft space in my heart. But of all those games, I would say the one that I probably adore the most is The Movies. I wish I could play that all over. Choice. It's so great. It's so great. When are they gonna like do a hodgepodge, like re-release this crap? Like, come on, like just remaster it and put it out. You're sitting on it. Don't make no sense, man. Like, look at EA did that with the Command and Conquer remaster. Right. Like, we're gonna remaster these old games and put them out there for $20 so these old geezers can buy it, and people bought it. Do the same thing. Remaster this. Microsoft Studios, you're not doing a great job. Remaster some of these old games and let old geezers buy them for $20 so we can relive some segment of our childhood. That's all you got to
do. There's a huge uptick in like remakes and remasters and all.
Yeah.
It's obviously doing well. It's almost, keyword almost, a safe bet.
Yeah. Yeah, especially if it's, look, man, if Microsoft came to me and was like, okay, we got 3 options for you. You can have Avowed by Obsidian, right? You love Obsidian. Yes, I do. Okay. You can have a reboot of Fable. You love Fable, don't you? Yes, I do. Okay. You can have a 1080p remaster of The Movies. Which one do you want? I'm like, dude, The Movies. Shoot the rest of them dead. I don't want those other ones. Just give me The Movies. I don't care about Avowed. I don't care about Fable. I care about Fable. I want The Movies. And yeah, that's one, man. It's great. It's great.
Good. I'm glad you had a easy decision. Almost it seemed as soon as you thought
But you,
about it.
but you know that brings up another good, I think another good topic for us to have on another episode. Kind of going off of like my Morrowind thing is like, what games do you go back and play them? Do you feel like you're playing for the first time? Gives you those feelings like you're playing it for the very first time all over again. I
That
think
could be a
it'd be
good one.
interesting. Yeah, I think that'd
Yeah.
be interesting. Be interested to hear yours. I've got to think about. I got one for sure, but I got to think about some other ones that may make me feel the same way.
Yeah, that'd
Um,
be hard.
yeah, you think so?
Maybe. I'll think about
Well,
it.
I didn't say
It's
it
a
would be
good
an
one.
easy topic, but
Oh,
yeah,
I know. Sometimes the hard ones are the good ones.
yeah. Um, oh man, I was going to do a "That's What She Said" joke, and I decided not to. Is that running your? Is that the
I
gamut of
just
your?
think that's it.
Okay, okay. Well, we've reached the end of our topics, which means we're at final thoughts, where we can offer final thoughts about anything related or unrelated to this podcast episode. So, who wants to give final thoughts first? I can volunteer to go. You've gone
Sure.
first past couple times. Want to give you a minute to
Sounds good. I'll take
yeah.
it.
So mine's kind of is not 100% just like the Warner Brothers closes 3 studios, but a game did close. That game is Dauntless. If those of you who have not
Oh.
maybe heard of Dauntless, Dauntless was essentially a free-to-play competitor variant of the monster hunting genre. It was basically Monster Hunter-ish, light, in free-to-play form. I've put not a lot, but I've played some of Dauntless because I was always afraid to pay for Monster Hunter because I just didn't really know what it was. And I played Dauntless, and Dauntless was fine. It was a very fine game. Um, One thing Dauntless did do was clarify for me that if I had bought a Monster Hunter game, I probably would be pissed off. So I do appreciate it from that standpoint. Like it helped me know that I don't really like monster hunting games. Like it did that,
Right.
and I didn't have to pay to find that out.
Exactly.
But otherwise, like the game was actually interesting. Mechanics were interesting. It had an interesting like little lore world that it had built around it, and it's been around I think for six or 7 years. I think the game was around, and they just announced that they're closing the game down. The studio that is supporting it is also unfortunately being closed down. So,
Of
R.I.P. to
course.
Dauntless.
Mhm.
Again, I think it's another symptom of just how gaming has become increasingly unsustainable. You either have to have, super big blockbuster Marvel type hits, and I'm not talking about any recent Marvel movies, or you've got to have kind of smaller in scope games that double down on one or two things that really targets and find its niche. It can deliver a great game that exceeds expectations and delivers on that. Something that I think Avowed probably won't end up doing, but something like a Kingdom Come Deliverance will. And so I think that's where you need to that's where the industry is kind of going. And you think of all these different big publishers closing down studios, big studios getting closed down. There's talks about
Yeah.
BioWare closing down possibly. And that's a really interesting story because it was like, oh, Mass Effect bombed. Yeah, but they got Anthem coming. Anthem will save BioWare. Anthem bombs. Oh, okay, yeah, but they got the next Dragon Age coming. That'll for sure help them. Dragon Age bombs. Oh, okay, well, no, they got the new Mass Effect that's coming. The new Mass Effect will say, it's we gotta stop with some of that stuff. But yeah, that's my final thought.
All right. My final thought is we're getting old. You know,
That's for sure.
we both got some grays in our beards.
Yep.
And these bad boys are lifesavers
And acids, huh?
and acids. Just you ever woke up choking on your own acid?
Yes.
It's
Unfortunately,
not great.
yes. I know exactly what that is.
And
Yeah.
that burn, it just
Yeah. It,
sits there.
oh yeah, you're talking about GERD, right?
Yeah.
That's
So
terrible.
like
Terrible.
everybody, like literally every body is different. you know, so
Mhm.
I'm trying to figure out mine. Like
Mhm.
how soon can I eat and go to bed? Is it half an hour? Is it an hour and a half? I don't know. If I do it too soon, I get all acidy and then I have to eat some of these. But like
Yep.
come in handy. I just wish that they wouldn't have the food coloring in there.
Yeah.
They is not necessary.
Yeah. They can be chalky white looking if they have to be, like whatever.
Yeah, that's
Like
fine,
that's
you
not
know?
just you're not getting them for the fact that they're colored like, pink and yellow and green or whatever else they're colored as, like
Right.
yeah. Yeah.
But
That's I mean that's a like well, it's like for like dinner today I made a bolognese, right? And
okay.
so it's like okay, usually before it's like okay, I cook it, do the thing, put the tomatoes in there, yada yada, I'm cooking. All right, let me just go ahead and take it out the pot and eat it, right? To your credit, getting older, right? This time, when I did the bolognese, I put a little sugar in there, right? Because the sugar cuts down on the acidity. I have to worry about acidity. This is not cool. I don't like this at all.
Yep.
Okay? You're talking to someone that used to just drink Frank's Red Hot. You know what I'm saying? And I still might every now and then. You know what I'm saying? When you're feeling up,
It's good.
when the body's working right, you just
Yep.
guzzle some Frank's Red Hot.
You
But,
just guzzle. Well, there's a difference between drinking and
yeah,
guzzling.
I understand. Yeah, point taken. I understand that.
I
But like again, like there were things like I didn't have to worry about that part of acidity or the vinegariness, right? Like I would always put a little bit of Frank's Red Hot in some soups that I would make. Bro, this last potato soup I did, bro, I put some Frank's Red Hot in there, man. And I'm like, man, like, why am I so hot? Like, why am I hot? Why do I feel like peppery? And it's like, there's no way these little dashes of Frank's Red Hot that I could not feel, that I did not even feel before, now is
mm-hmm.
all of a sudden like, you put some hot sauce in your soup. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
You got hops, you got hot sauce. You know what I'm saying? It's like, man, like the body is like, I don't get this aging thing is just sucks, man. This getting old thing just blows. And
I
you're like you
agree.
said, you're having to relearn your body. What worked 5, 6, 7, 10 years ago just doesn't work anymore. And so you're having to relearn what works. Yeah, okay, I can eat an hour before bed. Okay, now I maybe need to stretch it to maybe a couple of hours. Or, oh, hey, I maybe can't I gotta, figure out what time I can drink something or what time I can, eat this type of food. Can I eat this type of food? Can I eat tacos on Tuesday and then turn around and eat lasagna on Wednesday? No, because on Thursday or Wednesday night or Thursday, you think you're dying. So you can't do
Yep.
that. It's man.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's final thought. They're lifesavers.
Tums, antacids, lifesavers. I'll give a shout out to what is it, some Gas X. That helps your boy out in the pinch too.
Nice.
When your boy
I've never been in a house with that, so I've never had to take it.
no, I'm telling you, boy, when you start feeling like a helium balloon, you gotta get some Gas X in you, help you out.
I'll remember that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, like it or not, that brings us to the end of level 132 of the Thoughts and Players podcast. I bet you guys did not think it would end with a Gas X recommendation. If you liked what you heard,
Not at all.
please like and follow the podcast on the socials. We're on Facebook and Twitter and TikTok and Instagram and everywhere like that. Also, you can follow the podcast on your preferred podcast service. We're on Google, wherever that is, Spotify, Apple, Overcast, Amazon, all those. And we, of course, are on YouTube where we upload weekly video episodes of the podcast. If you want to support us, there's a couple ways you can do that. One, buy merch. We have a Teespring store where we're selling a bunch of cool shirts, hats, phone cases, different things like that. We also have a Patreon. If you want to support us on a monthly basis, we have 3 subscriber tiers, a $2, $5, and $7 tier, each offering bits of exclusive content, access to exclusive content. Most recently, the episode 3 of the Game Dev Tycoon Let's Play is up there pretty soon. Episode 2 of Thronefall will be up there as well. So I should have checked that out. That is it for me. David, was there anything else you wanted to add?
Peace.
All right. Well, thanks for tuning in, and we will catch you on the next level.